Peace to the 12, man. Tonight on 3 and 3 in the morning, we're going to be talking about the nation of Elam. And that there's people that wrote about the black people that were found in ancient Elam. And that's what this video is going to be about. It's going to be 3 different books from 3 different people. And, yeah, for those who don't know who Elam is mentioned in the Bible numerous times. Apparently, this is 27 times in the King James Version. But, 27 verses, 28 times. And Elam is a Shemitic man, one of the sons of Shem. And you can read about that in Genesis chapter 10, verse 22, where it says, the children of Shem, Elam and Ashur and Arphaxad and Lud and Aram. All right, so Elam is one of the sons of Shem. He's Shemitic. All right. And the region that he was around is really it's around the Persia region, which is Iran, as well as Pakistan, as well as India. That region, all right. That's Elam. Lying to the east of Babylon, all right, to the east of Iraq or Iraq. Elam's an Assyrian word meaning high. Anything else I want to get out of this? Not quite. Anyway, so. It's funny, it's funny the more I do research on, really everything, it really solidifies the scientific opinion that is, I would say, the norm now, that where they say that everybody descends from the so-called black man, which is true. And it's funny, too, because the science community, the genetic science community, and rather you have us, like, which is the Israelite community, or if you have like the Hotep community, we're all telling people the same thing, which is that, the original man was a so-called black man, and everybody descends from him. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because we're going to find out that you're going to find black people also in ancient Elam, which is of course what this video is about. But so yeah, according to Google, look, the first humans were black. Yes, the earliest humans had dark skin, as modern humans originated in Africa, where dark skin provided protection from the sun's intense UV radiation. Right? And they talk about it get less sunlight and all that. Yeah, I've already done a video on that, but nonetheless, genetic and fossil evidence indicates that all modern humans or Homo sapiens evolved in Africa. So I'm saying this to say that it is known that the first humans were black. It's not even up for like really a debate, to be honest. I mean, even when you look up Cheddar Man and the original, like the oldest Europeans they find, they tell you they had dark skin. Cheddar Man, what's that other guy's name? The Negroid of Grimaldi, found in the Italy cave. So I've done so many videos on it, but nonetheless, yeah. So it's known that the first humans were black. Well, we're going to find out that there were black people found in ancient Elam as well. We're going to go to this first book by a guy by the name of Percy Sykes. Percy Sykes was a British soldier, diplomat, scholar with considerable literary output. He wrote historical, geographical, and biographical works, as well as describing his travels in Persia and Central Asia. Right? So we're going to be talking about the Persian, obviously. And his book is called... Also, he was born in 1867. And his book is called A History of Persia by Brigadier General Percy Sykes. All right. We're going to go to page 51. And we're going to read this whole thing. Right. So it says, Negrito Aborigines. Right. Dieulafoy and De Morgan, who both headed expeditions to Elam, and who studied the question most exhaustively on the spot, concur in the opinion that there was a very ancient occupation, very ancient, in the a very ancient occupation of the Susian plain by Negritos, and that so far is known, these were the original inhabitants. Original inhabitants, Negritos, Susian, right? So, what is the Negrito? A Negrito is a member of any various dark-skinned peoples of Southeast Asia and Australasia. These are Negritos. These are the people known as the Eta people, spelled A-E-T-A, of the Philippines. They're the original inhabitants of the Philippines as well. Negritos refer to various indigenous groups of short-statured, dark-skinned people who live in isolated parts of Southeast Asia and the Andaman Islands. These diverse peoples include the Ada of the Philippines, the Semang of Malaysia, and the Indonesian peoples like the Org and the Jawa. The term derived from the Spanish word which means little black person, right? It can be considered demeaning, right? So look, these are the Negritos he's talking about. All right, he also said what? Susian? He said Susian. What is a Susian? Well, Susa, for those of you that don't know, Susa is referring to the ancient city of Susa, which is in Iran, a significant center of ancient civilizations and a biblical city known as Shushan. Or it can be a modern name for various things, including an ETF ticker, a woman's clothing store in California. Yeah, we don't care about that. So anyway, Susa is a city in Iran, right? It's near the Iranian plateau. The modern city is called Shush, a vital and strategic center for millennia. It was the capital of the Elamite and Persian empires, Shushan. Okay. And also, like I told you guys, I said what Elam is really the landmass of Iran as well as Pakistan and stuff. Check this out. Yes, part of the Indian subcontinent, specifically the northwestern regions of the Indus Valley, modern-day Pakistan, were part of the ancient Persian Achaemenid Empire from the 6th to 4th centuries BCE. These territories were organized as provinces and paid taxes to the Persian kings. All right. So that's the Elamite Empire. So anyway, let's go back to where we were at. I'll just read it again. The Negrito Aborigines, Dieulafoy and De Morgan, who both headed expeditions to Elam and who studied the question most exhaustively on the spot, concur in the opinion that there was a very ancient occupation of the Susian plain by Negritos, and that so far as is known, these were the original inhabitants. In support of this view, Herodotus writes, Ethiopians were in two bodies and had been appointed to serve with the Indians, being in no way different in appearance from other Ethiopians. All right? Meaning they had the same exact skin color and appearance, phenotype as the Ethiopians. The only thing that was different was their hair. But in their language and in their nature of their hair only, for the Ethiopians from the east are straight-haired, but those of Libya have hair more thick and woolly than that of any other man. Again, there is the fact that in the most ancient bas-reliefs, figures of Negritos appear with frequency. More especially is this the case in the famous stele of Naram Sin, referred to in the next chapter, where the monarch, who is of Semitic type, is portrayed as leading Negritos to victory. Some years ago, during the course of my travels, I was puzzled by the extremely dark populations of Bashakerd and Sarhad, very remote and mountainous regions bordering on Persian Baluchistan. The solution may be that the whole country was originally peopled by Negritos, right? The Anarakoi or non-Aryans of the Greeks, who probably stretched along the northern shores of the Persian Gulf to India, and that their descendants have survived in those distant parts, which are scarcely known even by Persians. So he's telling you multiple times that he believes that Negritos were the original inhabitants of the Elamite land, all right, of Iran. Right? I actually had a DNA study that I didn't include in this video. So if I do a part 2 on Elam, I'll probably include it. But they had similar studies when they some Iranian archaeologists did some DNA tests on some bones they found, and they found that they were related to people that looked familiar to South Africans. All right, the real South Africans, obviously. Where else was I? Anything else? Oh, and where in some districts I was the first European traveler, Hall would derive the dark section of the inhabitants of Elam and the Sumerians from this stock, and in my opinion, this would appear to be the soundest view to take of a very difficult problem. The legend of Memnon, but Elam, in addition to, wait, do I have this on the next thing? Yeah, okay, we're going to touch on Memnon in a minute. So, the legend of Memnon, but Elam, in addition to the rich alluvial plain, also included the hill districts of the north and east, and here there is no question of a Negrito race. Consequently, there were in effect, at least two races inhabiting Elam: the Negritos of the plains, who were very dark, and the White Hill men. This would appear to have been vaguely recognized by the Greeks. Right, he's going to talk about Memnon now. So, they describe Memnon, who came to aid Troy, as the offspring of a white mountain woman, Kissia, and a black Tithonus. So, y'all want to know who Memnon is? Memnon, one second. Memnon is in Greek mythology. He was the king of Ethiopia, the son of Tithonus and Eos. Right? This is Memnon, as you can see, so-called black man. According to the scholar Dean, Memnon had a double or fused identity in classical antiquity, considered both Asian and African. Sounds like a Negrito, right? For Greek and Roman writers, because of his parentage and because of the geographical interdependency of Ethiopia and of India, Memnon was definitely black-skinned for Roman writers. So this is what they're talking about, Memnon. They describe Memnon, who came to the aid of Troy, as the offspring of a white mountain woman, Kissia, and a black Tithonus. He leads an army of Susians and Ethiopians. Right? He leads an army of Susians. Where's Susa? It's in Iran. Iranians. All right, Susa. Elam. Susians and Ethiopians. Tithonus is the Ethiopian god. Didun, to the assistance of Param, who is the paternal uncle and is slain by Achilles. There are brief references to Memnon in Homer. Yeah. Nothing really there. When the Greeks found a black population in Elam, they would naturally compare it to the Ethiopians, of whom they knew through Egyptian sources. And this explains the transfer of Tithonus to Persia. Okay, let's go to the next book. Marcel Auguste Dieulafoy. Probably pronounced that wrong. I'm not French. Anyway, this guy was a French archaeologist. He was born in 1844 in France. And he was a French archaeologist. And he wrote a book called Les Acropoles de Sus. Right? Which, I don't know what that translates to, but Sus is probably talking about Elam. But the book was written in French. It was written in French. And it's page 28 of this book, which is written in French, but we translated it like I always do. Page 28, down to here. He's going to talk about it as well. Also, look at this. You can already tell this looks like a so-called Negroid. But nonetheless, he says, the so frankly Negroid type of the Elamites, found in figure 31, 32, 36, 37, and 38, figure 6 and 7 and 8, reproduced on the Assyrian bas reliefs, the enemas of the Achaemenid period unearthed from the excavations of Susa, confirmed the information that classical historians provide on the Ethiopians of the Levant. These flat-haired blacks, who in the time of Herodotus and Strabo existed as a pure race on the southern coast of Persia and Balkistan, these thin, puny, ugly Kisosis with an almost black, coppery complexion, who still populated Susania in the 10th and even the 12th century, are the ancestors of the Negrito mestizos that we have encountered from the Strait of Hormuz. Now, funny he mentions the Strait of Hormuz, because the Strait of Hormuz was what the Iranians of today threatened to close up to stop oil production for the Eastern Front. All right, whenever they were going into their skirmish with the so-called Israelis, they were talking about closing the Strait of Hormuz. But anyway, it says, the other hand, the very clear anthropological characteristics of the Negritos, the persistence of these characteristics through the centuries, are formal proof that the Susian black races never had any kinship with the blacks of Africa. And this goes into what I told you guys in a video one time. I had a sister. She was like, oh, well, maybe the Negritos come from Africa. And I'm like, no, because they tell you themselves that Negritos don't really have much DNA match to Africa. And the reason for that is because, like I told you, it's their belief that all black people come from Africa. I'm not saying that, but what I will tell you is that all the lands pretty much had so-called black people there first. All right, that's just a reality, and this is the same way with Negritos, who are found in Asia. I told you the original inhabitants of the Philippines were Negritos. Right, you can look that up. But where are we at? Negritos, citizens of these characteristics through the centuries, are formal proof that the Susan black races never had any kinship with the blacks of Africa. In other words, meaning they're not from the same stock. All right, they're not Cushites. Notably with the Ethiopians and the Nubians, the later are dolichocephalic, tall, strong, with frizzy hair. The former, brachiocephalic, short and flat hair, differences that had escaped neither Herodotus nor Strabo. The black blood of the modern Disfulis, the royal guards of Darius, and the Susians, their common ancestors, therefore does not come from an artificial addition brought by slaves from the coast of Africa. Right? And that picture he's talking about, I'm pretty sure is this picture. Right? The figurine of the royal guard of Susa. Pretty sure this is the picture he's talking about. I put that there just for reference. But, where we at? On the contrary, the parents of the Disfulis should be sought in the east of Elam. The Negritos possessed Susania from the most ancient times, as well as southern and eastern Asia, where their traces are found everywhere. Isolated islands amidst conquering peoples, seduced no doubt by the marvelous richness of the plains that extend southwest of the Zagros, they settled in large numbers on the banks of the great rivers and early constituted a powerful kingdom. For many centuries, the black race did not degenerate, crossbreeding due to a transport of Babylonian women to the harems of the Susian chiefs, and the wars against Assyria introduced some traces of Semitic blood into the population, despite the savage expeditions of the features. Now, how can they produce Semitic blood into them when we know that the Elamites themselves are Semitic? All right, Elam is what? The children of Shem. Anyway, continuing on. Last book will be from Harry Johnston. All right, the last book will be from Harry Johnston. And we will be going to his book. And he was a guy, by the way, he was a British explorer, botanist, artist, colonial administrator, linguist who traveled widely across Africa to speak in some of the languages spoken by the people of that continent. He was born in 1858, Harry Johnston. And we're going to look from the Smithsonian Libraries. This is from the Smithsonian. The book is called The Negro in the New World. All right, The Negro in the New World by Sir Harry H. Johnston. All right, dated in 1910. We're going to go to page 27. As you can see right here, it reads, the Elamites, the what? The Elamites of Mesopotamia appear to have been a Negroid people with kinky hair and to have transmitted this racial type for the Jews and Syrians. There is a curliness of the hair, together with a Negro eye and full lips, the portraiture of Assyria, which conveys the idea of an evident Negro element in Babylon. Quite probably the very ancient Negro invasion of the Mediterranean Europe, of which the skeletons of the Alps, Martin and Vest came from Syria and Asia, might on its way to Central and Western Europe. In other words, he's talking about the Negroids that's found in Europe that I mentioned earlier in this video. So yeah, he's saying also that the Elamites were related to of Negroid stock. So like I said, it just helps once again further prove that the first so-called human was a so-called black man, which, I mean, I don't even think is deniable at this point. I might do a video on it, but, Anyway, so that's the black people found in ancient Elam. I ain't going to be too long-winded with you guys, man. That's the 3 books that I promised, and that'll be the video. So once again, we'll say peace to the 12. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father, the Most High, Yahawah, in the name of His only God, Son, yahawashi. Yahawah is the name of the Heavenly Father, the world commonly calls God. And yahawashi is the Savior of the nation of Israel, the world commonly calls Jesus Christ. I want to say shalom, which means peace. You people listening and learning, you brothers and sisters, word, truth, sincerity. And I want to say peace to you elders that's been doing this thing before me, man. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Gone. Peace. Shalom.